De Cuba traigo el son ritmo sabroso. De Cuba dulce caña y rico ron. Café como rayo en el Caribe.
Hey you guys, so I'm gonna give you 5 budget tips on how you can travel budget friendly, right? Here's tip number 1. Get your pickiness and priorities, okay? So what I mean by that is that depending on where you want to go, you have to understand how you're going to get there. So if it's an airplane, I would think that would be the only way, or a car, or a bus, or a train. And you have to see what your budget is as far as what you can afford. Don't go by what people post and where they tell you and where you should stay. No. I'm a lover and a fan of using points, but I don't mind going on an okay airplane, spend all my coins at the actual place. So know your pickiness in advance because that will help you with your budgeting. And I want to add to that and what that means specifically. Okay, so lots of people are like, I'll never go on this airplane, or I never go on this, or this is too expensive, I can't go in America. But what people don't know is that if you book 2 one-ways, sometimes that is a much better deal. And also, if you book the cheapest airplane that has no, how do you say it in English? No, non-stop. Okay, so if you pick a cheaper flight that's a non-stop, rather than a more expensive one where it's 2 stops, you tell me which one is the better value, right? So that's one big thing that I do. Another thing is, people are like, oh, you can just book at a certain time at night and Tuesdays and all this. Yeah, that's great. But let me give you a better one here. If you go on Travelocity and Expedia and Cheap Tickets, they're all owned by the same company. Yes, I know this for a fact. So they're all owned by the same company, so you can't sit there and compare them. However, what you can do is to see what price that is and then go onto the exact website for the airline, and you can actually purchase that ticket from the airline's website. Yes, most likely it will be cheaper by 20% at least, because the other companies have to actually pay for those. Another tip, I love Airbnb. I absolutely love Airbnb. What's pretty cool about Airbnb is that it's really flexible and you can even get up to 75% off. I'll go ahead and leave my little link at the bottom if you want to use it. But anyways, besides that, the flexibility of Airbnb is that now you can even pay in increments. So let's say you wanted to go to Bali or you wanted to go to Hawaii or whatever. You didn't have to pay the whole booking all in advance. You can pay half up front, and if you're sharing it with friends, you can split it amongst your friends. So this is just all in tip number 1, by knowing your priorities, your pickiness, prioritize your pickiness. It's because you want to understand what your budget is, but you have to be conscious of that. If you can't afford 5-star, you can still have a bang travel experience on a budget without having to do the whole 5-star. By the way, you're only going to be in the room for to sleep and stuff, but you still want it to be nice. So I'll give you my next tip in a little bit. And I want to give you my next tip for traveling on a budget. When traveling on a budget, it's super, super important for you to understand the currency of the country that you're going to and making sure that you are translating it into your budget, basically. When you go to Europe or you go to the Caribbean, you have to make sure that the currency is transferred. So really big and handy is before you do any type of traveling or any type of planning is doing your research based on currency, because when you transfer money, you have to remember that you're working on your currency, which is dollars. For me, I like to use a currency app. I like to use my bank's information when it comes to credit cards and debit cards and all that fun stuff. So that's my biggest tip for it, and getting your bank for your money, or your bank for your buck, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. It's all about how can I say this, like cashing in increments. Never cash all your money at once, because when you get to the location, you don't want to be able to have to think about, oh my God, I already transferred all my money at this rate. So that's a big tip when traveling on a budget. The currency is so important. Again, be within your pocket and not someone else's pocket, and you can still be on a budget. Okay, so I'm back with the next tip. So I don't even know what number tip it is, but I want to do the rest of them because I want to enjoy my trip. But I definitely want to, every time I travel, I really want people to travel. Like every time I ask someone like, why haven't you gone here? They're like, I want to go here. And I say to them, but why haven't you gone? And they always say, well, because my budget or I don't have time for work or whatever. So I want to kind of go in with some tips on budgets for travel, budgeting for travel. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is free budgets. Free to do things during your budget. So in Europe specifically, there's tons of things to do. And even in the States, you can find websites that say like local or free museum day or 50% off or whatever the case. There's so many free things to do. I didn't even know that actually the actual church, the Vatican Church, is actually free to get in. That's amazing. Of course, there's a line to wait, so you have to kind of weigh out what's important. You have to kind of weigh out, okay, so if I pay maybe a little bit more, I can do everything at a discount, which brings me to the next thing, which is, don't be afraid to ask for discounts. People that know me, I ask for discounts. Of course, I don't go crazy. I don't say, oh, well, I'm just going to be rude and just say I want it for free. I mean, sometimes I'll be joking. I'm like, you want to give me 50% off. And sometimes they do. I didn't really do it. I was joking. So I don't really haggle in that sense. I just look around and I know what kind of price it's for. And then I always look like, what's the student rate? Or what's the, this rate? What's the lowest that I know that these rates they can go? And then some places you really cannot, which is fine. But you can always find ways for, to bargain per se and shop around, of course. So my next thing is like another budget advice to say like why you can't travel is time. So a big thing is like, oh, I can't go because I have no time off of work. There's tons of US holidays. Try to find a holiday that is a three-day weekend. And then all you need to do is just take 2 days. If you're an entrepreneur, go around those holiday times. Yes, it might be a little higher for tickets and stuff, but if you plan ahead, you'll actually be surprised because you can actually find a cheaper route. I have tons of tips for budget and traveling just because naturally I'm a budgeter and I love to budget. So I would say, seriously, if you have any questions at all about something specific, like anywhere you want to go. I'll give you an example. Like a lot of people want to go to Thailand, right? What people don't know is that it's super cheap to leave from LA. You can get a ticket for like $600, right? Or even less sometimes. And then they're like, well, I still have to get to LA. But they don't know is that, yes, if you go on JetBlue, or I know some people are going to hate me for saying this with Spirit, but listen, don't try to have, a Delta American airline budget, don't try to have American or Delta taste when you have a Spirit budget. So be conscious in that and just be like, okay, well, it's I'm just going from one state to another. Yeah, they don't give you water. Yes, you need to, you need to pay to breathe, basically. But when you're on a budget, you have to prioritize, and that's the first thing that I spoke about in the beginning is prioritizing your pickiness per se. I'm not picky in a lot of things, but there are some things that I am picky with. So there's some things that I won't, I want to make sure that that's like right. I don't want to stay in like rinky, like horrible places where I don't feel safe. So anyways, let me get to my next tip so I can go on my tour. So yeah, the best time to travel, honestly, is look at all the holidays in the States and then look at the 3-day weekend and then add another 2. If you're going to international, add another 3, because sometimes people don't have the time off. You don't have a lot of time off, which I totally get it. Especially if you work for yourself, entrepreneurship, you have to get away. You really have to get away. And it's crazy because that's how the universe works, that when you decide to go away, that's when everything wants to hit the fan. Trust me, I know. This vacation, my wife's telling me like, don't reply to that email because, yes, I had to bring my computer, but I haven't been on it like that, just for like research what we're going to do. But it's like, why when we're home or we're just, with our regular customers or whatever, people call, they order, they do their little things. But now all of a sudden that we're gone, it's like, hello, really? But it's still good, but there's always that. So you can't really escape from that. So I feel a little weird filming. So I came on this little street. Okay, so I want to go talk about, so yes, my big thing about budgeting is, look, if you go out to eat every day, like every day at your home, and you every week you buy a pair of shoes or you buy a bag or whatever the case is, like you could take out $50 or $100 a month, literally. Stop going out for 1 week, like 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on what it is, and you will be able to afford it. And then people that say that they can't afford it because you have kids, let me tell you, when I have kids one day, I'm gonna make a video on it, because I know how I am budget already with myself, but kids are a perk. You have no idea how many things that you can get free, discounted, or whatever because of kids. So I can't wait to have me some kids for them discounts, but that's another story. All right, so we talked about that. Oh, this is a big one. Do what locals do. Don't do what tourists do. Lucy and I, my wife and I, we love, like, even where we stay where locals stay. Like, we like to eat where locals wake. We don't try to do a lot of things that touristy, unless it's something like now that we're in Rome, we want to do some of the things that we've always wanted to go see since we were, younger. Like, and history, we love history. So, but don't be afraid to do other things and get off the beaten pathway, but of course safely. Because when you do what locals do, like take the bus, you get to look around, you get to explore, you get to see, you get to talk to people, you get to practice the language. I know that our next trip, I know we're definitely going to do something, probably, I would say maybe like, we really want to go to India, and we really want to go to South Africa, and we want to go to Asia, like we want to do all that. So we definitely will plan as far as what places is safe to go and what places are not safe to go, because that's super, super important. But like, seriously, don't be afraid to do that. You'll save so much money on food. You'll save so much money on transportation or whatever the case it is. Again, if you have any questions about anything, I when it comes to budgets and travel, I have to say, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but overall budgets in general, I like to save. Because I like to have more money to splurge on something else, like food, because I love food and experiences. Okay, my last tip, because this is getting a little long. All right, so my last tip is, when traveling by yourself and traveling with like your couple, like, your partner or whatever, there's so many advantages when you're, how you doing? By the way, I can count the colorness of traveling. Don't be afraid. That's another tip that's on here. Don't be afraid to to travel if you're of color. It's okay. Be proud. Anyway, so traveling in a couple or single, there's two differences, especially when it budgets. People think you spend more when you're in a couple relationship, like when you're going with friends or whatever, but you can take it as an advantage, because with solo single rates, sometimes things can be higher. So don't be afraid to go with a friend or mom or dad. I was just telling Lucy, like, I would love to take a trip with my mom or our moms, which is pretty cool. Like, why can't you, so you can share food, you can, share food. That's the best thing, because you can taste each other's stuff. But also you could pique the attention of somebody else that wants to go to do something else. You're just like, oh, okay. You could pay half and half if you want, if you kind of want to do that whole Dutch thing. We don't really do that in our relationship. We're just like, okay, how much it is, and we just bring it out. That's just how we work on our lives. But it works for other people for that. And then traveling single, where you have to be conscious of where you're staying and stuff. So sometimes it can be actually a little higher, but it has your benefits too, because if you're very flexible, it will meet and it can meet with your budget. Before you do anything, do this. Always declare that you're going to go on a trip every year, at least one place outside of the country. If you're really afraid of airplanes, I totally get it, because there's a lot of people that are afraid of airplanes. Then try to find another means of transportation, if it's a train or a bus, or take baby steps and go take a staycation and then go somewhere else. But I promise you, like, honestly, I'm just gonna put this out here. there's so many people that go to Disney World, and I love Disney World, right? But you spend so much money in Disney World, like so much money, because it's like $100 to get in, and then food is like $500. I'm exaggerating, but like sometimes you'll be so surprised the places that you can go with the same amount of money if you went down the street, if that makes sense. So like, if you really want to travel, make the budget. Remember, think in US or whatever your currency is, and work from there, and think of what you can afford rather than what you can't. And when it comes to spending money, always think of it of a per day, per meal, per kind of thing. You're always safe with 100, US to be on the super safe side, but that's a lot depending on what you like. If you're a shopper and you want to splurge and shop, then that might have to go a little bit up. But anyway, so I'm gonna go and go on my tour and try not to make too many more videos, but I do want to make about 1 or 2 more for the rest of the channel. Buongiorno. See, my Italian is good, right? Anyways, so I will thank you so much for watching my channel, and again, we're going to talk about my passion to empower, budgets in business, and of course, what was the other one? Self-growth. You see, self-growth. And don't forget to check out the podcast every Tuesday. We have a new podcast out where we talk to people, or it's just me. We're talking like it's 1995. All right, you guys, have a good one. Bye.